Let's start our discussion with a topic that holds more relevance ever before: digital connections versus real-world relationships. We're in the throes of the digital age, a time when our lives more entwined with technology than they've ever been. Every day we're connecting with people across the world, forming bonds that can feel as real as those we form in person. But what does this mean for There's a certain magic in digital connections, a sense of unity that transcends geographical boundaries. On the flip side, we also have our real-world relationships. These are built on shared experiences, laughter and tears, moments that can't be captured in texts or video calls. We must acknowledge that there are drawbacks to both. With digital connections, there's the risk of superficiality, of based on carefully curated online personas rather than genuine personalities. And real-world relationships, they too come with their own set of challenges. Misunderstandings that arise from tone of voice, body language, and the fact that we can't always be there for each other in the way like to be. As we navigate this digital dilemma, we must weigh the pros and cons of each, strive for balance, and remember that at the end of the day, it's the quality of our connections that matter most. Now, to further understand this, let's delve into a case study. Meet Jane, a 25-year-old digital native who spends most of her time online. Jane wakes up each morning to the sound of her smartphone alarm. Her fingers instinctively reach for the device, and within seconds, she's scrolling through her social media feeds. She's greeted by a barrage of updates, likes, and comments from friends and followers around the globe. In her digital world, Jane is constantly connected, always engaged, and never alone. As she goes about her day, Jane's online interactions continue to dominate. Her lunch breaks are filled with quick chats on messaging apps, while her evenings are spent laughing at viral videos or joining trending discussions. But while the digital realm offers her a sense of community and connection, it's not without its drawbacks. You see, Jane struggles with maintaining real-world relationships. With her attention so often focused on her digital life, her physical world interactions have begun to suffer. She often finds herself distracted during face-to-face conversations, her mind wandering to the latest notifications on her phone. Friends and family have voiced their concerns, but it's a difficult habit to break. The impact on Jane's mental health is palpable. She feels a constant pressure to keep up with the digital world, to be available, to respond, to engage. It's a perpetual cycle that leaves her feeling drained, anxious, and isolated, despite being more connected than ever. She finds herself comparing her life to the carefully curated snapshots of others' lives she sees online, leading to feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. It's a paradox, really. In her quest for digital connection, Jane is losing touch with the real world and with herself. So how does Jane navigate this digital maze while keeping her real-world connections intact? The answer to that question is not straightforward, and it's a challenge faced by many in our digitally dominated society. But in the following scenes, we'll explore some possible solutions to help Jane, and others like her, find a healthier balance between the digital and the real world. Stay tuned. The challenge for Jane, like many of us, is finding a balance. Jane's story is a familiar one. In our digitally connected world, she's caught in a whirlwind of constant updates, endless scrolling, and the persistent ping of notifications. This constant digital noise creates a symphony of distraction that is hard to escape. It's like she's living in two worlds simultaneously, the digital and the real one, and it's difficult for her to focus on either. One of the biggest challenges she faces is the fear of missing out, or FOMO. With every new post, tweet, or snap, she feels the pressure to stay connected, to keep up, to not miss anything. It's as though the whole world is happening online, and if she's not there, she's missing out. This fear drives her to check her phone incessantly, even at the cost of her real-world interactions. Next, there's the challenge of online distractions. The internet is a vast, fascinating place full of interesting content, but it's also a labyrinth where time disappears. One moment, Jane's checking an email. The next, she's falling down a rabbit hole of online articles, videos, and social media posts. This endless distraction eats into her time, leaving her with little energy for her real-world relationships. And then, there's the difficulty of maintaining real-world relationships. While digital connections can be enriching, they're often no substitute for face-to-face interactions. Jane finds it challenging to nurture her offline relationships when she's constantly plugged in. The irony is, while she's more connected than ever, she sometimes feels more isolated and disconnected from the people around her. The challenge for Jane, like many of us, is finding a balance between these two worlds. It's about learning to navigate the digital landscape without losing sight of the real world. It's about harnessing the power of online connections without letting them overshadow our offline interactions. But every challenge presents an opportunity for a solution. Jane found her balance by setting boundaries and prioritizing her real-world connections. Jane's journey towards balance begins with a simple yet powerful act: setting screen time limits. She realizes that her digital devices, while essential, were consuming an unhealthy portion of her day. So, she starts by setting a cap on the hours she spends online. This isn't easy at first. The allure of the digital world is strong. But Jane is stronger. She perseveres, adjusting the screen time settings on her devices and gradually reduces her digital consumption. Next, Jane starts prioritizing face-to-face interactions. She begins to reconnect with the people around her, making it a point to engage in real-world conversations. She replaces her digital coffee breaks with actual physical ones, sharing a cup of joe with her colleagues at work. She starts hosting dinner parties at home, inviting her friends over, and sharing laughter and stories. It's during these moments that Jane rediscovers the warmth of human connection, something that a digital interface could never replicate. But Jane doesn't completely abandon her digital tools. Instead, she learns to use them to enhance her real-world relationships. She uses social media to keep up with her friends' updates, but only as a supplement to their real-life interactions. She uses video conferencing tools to connect with her loved ones who are far away, making sure to send them personal messages and arrange regular catch-ups. She even uses productivity apps to manage her time better, ensuring she has ample time for her offline relationships. Slowly but surely, Jane begins to see a change. She feels less drained, more connected. She's happier, more fulfilled. Her relationships are flourishing, both online and offline. The digital world is no longer a giant sucking her into a vortex of isolation, but a tool that she controls, a tool that enriches her life. Jane's story is a testament that balance is possible. She shows us that by setting boundaries, prioritizing real-world connections, and using digital tools wisely, we can navigate the fine line between digital connection and real-world relationships. We can reclaim our time, our relationships, and ultimately, our lives. So, what can we learn from Jane's journey? The crux of Jane's journey, and indeed our exploration, lies in the delicate dance between the digital and the tangible, the screen and the skin, the pixel and the person. It's a negotiation of nuance, a balancing act of the highest order, and one that we all participate in, whether consciously or otherwise. In essence, we've learned that this journey is not a sprint, but a marathon, a long-term commitment to continually reassessing and recalibrating our relationship with the digital realm. Jane's story is a testament to this process. She recognized the challenge, the creeping sense of disconnection in a world of hyperconnectivity. She acknowledged the paradox of feeling alone while surrounded by a sea of online interactions. But recognition and acknowledgement were only the first steps. Jane then made a conscious effort to recalibrate her digital habits. She set boundaries for her screen time, prioritized face-to-face interactions, and made room for digital detoxes. She didn't abandon her online connections. Instead, she found a way to let them enrich her real-world relationships, not replace them. What's inspiring about Jane's journey is that it wasn't about rejecting the digital world, but about integrating it in a way that served her, not the other way around. She didn't throw out her smartphone or delete her social media accounts. Instead, she found a way to weave them into the fabric of her life without letting them consume her. This is a lesson for all of us. We don't have to choose between our online and offline lives. Instead, we can find a balance that allows us to enjoy the benefits of both. It's about making our digital connections meaningful and using them to enhance, not hinder, our real-world relationships. The takeaway here isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, but rather a call to action, to be mindful of our digital habits, to set boundaries, and to remember the value of face-to-face connection. Remember, in the digital age, it's not about choosing between online and offline relationships, but about finding a balance that works for you. And before we wrap up, here's another call to action. Don't forget to subscribe for more interesting facts and insights.